Okay. I would like to remind all of you of a few things. The first thing is that all the updates are going to be on the LinkedIn alumni group. If you haven't joined the group, make sure that you send in the request. Email the team, they will assist you. Okay. We do not want to send across any more emails from here on. All the updates will be on the alumni group. Point one. Second point is that we have rejigged few of the lectures on the platform. So it's a good news for you because some of you have watched the lectures already. That watching time will not be counted. So you can watch them for additional hours. So you should be happy about that. And we will be segmenting those lectures in various subjects. This week, we are starting with economics. On Thursday, we will be doing ethics. Every Thursday will be a day for ethics. Shatakshi will be the instructor for ethics. Shatakshi has worked extensively in foreign affairs across countries. She has worked with Government of India. She's been part of BCG, worked with McKinsey chairman, and she will be leading discussions on ethics. She will also be inviting few of the officials from the governments who will come in for guest lectures. Today we start with economics. So before I begin, I want to check with you all. How many of you have a background in economics to begin with? Mansi, what's your story?
Sir, I have done my bachelor's in economics and currently I'm doing my master's in economics as well. I'm in second year right now.
Mm-hmm. And do you
Yeah,
love the
so
subject? What do you love about it? Do you hate the
sir,
subject? What do you hate about it?
I love the subject. Actually, my interest in economics was developed from 12th when I got to do the national accounting income stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, learning all about the national income and how the GDP is all affected and how I can calculate all that big data. So, I love macroeconomics for the most part of economics.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right, fair enough. Daisy, what's your story?
Hello, sir. Sir, I'm actually doing a bachelor's in economics and my final year starts next week. So, and like as a subject, I just love it. I love economics. From school itself
What do you
and
love
in
about it?
graduation. The basic thing that how it relates to the what is happening all around us, and also it's kind of a mixture of subjectivity and objectivity as a subject, a balance between maths as well as the interpretation and analysis.
Okay, good. Aditi, what about you? Do you study econometrics in undergrad, by the way, in India? You study econometrics, right? Great. Yes, Aditi.
Not in undergrad. Yeah, so actually, I also did my bachelor's in economics, and then I did my master's in public policy, uh, which had some elements of economics. And the most important concept that I love about economics is the concept of opportunity cost. I simply feel when we start applying that in our lives, it makes us more efficient as a person and make the right choices.
Okay, interesting. So, like Aditi also mentioned your favorite concept in economics when I come to you. Angad, please have the video on so that we can see your face and tell us your background.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I've done my company secretaryship, so economics was a part of it.
Okay.
I'm BCom honors also. So, and this is my first live class, so I'm really glad to meet you.
Man, you all, to all those who have studied economics, you're going to hate me so much in today's class and also in classes going forward. But we'll come to it. Rohit, your story?
Hi Naman, hi everyone. So I did study economics in my +2 level. So later in undergraduate, some part of stats.
Okay, good. Harsh, what about you? And one favorite concept from economics?
I do have a background in economics, like I have done BCom in economics, and I used to teach students of 11th and 12th and CPT.
What do you mean
Uh,
BCom in economics?
BCom in economics, there's some kind of subject in that.
Okay.
Okay, so I used to teach students like in 2014 or 15 economics about it. What do I love in economics is that it is the only dynamic subject I can think of in commerce, where you can relate it to human mind, taxation, and various kind of things. That's the only thing.
Can you give an
I love
example? How do you
about
relate that?
like the macroeconomics, the demand and supply, elasticity of demand. There are various kind of things which deal with human science, like human mind in my thing.
Okay. Shri Harsha, what about you?
Before this, I was doing CA, where economics was a very big part of that syllabus, and also in my BCom also there economics was there. So I have studied it well, but I think that it is not that difficult.
Do you have you heard of Nasim Taleb? Do you like him? Do you hate him? What do you think of him?
I have never heard of him.
Never heard of him? We'll meet him today. Okay, now all of you unraise your hands. All of you unraise your hands. Now, how many of you are very scared of economics? For the first time, you will be introduced to this discipline and you're deadly scared. You've been told that it's very, I don't know, it's very convoluted. It has concepts that make no sense. For some reason, I'm unable to understand, get a grasp of interest rates, inflation, what's happening. How many of you fall in that bucket and are already scared of attending these classes? Afreen, what's your story?
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Sir, for some reason, I just couldn't get hang of it. I tried many other faculties. I have heard about Zulfikar, sir, who was Visions faculty, who passed away during COVID. I tried his classes as well. But I don't think it is this for me. Maybe
not for you.
it is the numbers, maybe the current affairs. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Okay. Thanks for being brutally honest. Konika, what do you think? What's the concern for you? Have you tried studying it on your own? If yes, then what didn't work out?
Yes, I did not try it ever. I had economics in 11th and 12th, but due to some reason, I could not ever remember the facts, concepts, anything. I just know demand and supply has something, and that's it.
Demand,
I just
supply.
can't remember. Yeah, that's it. I just can't remember things.
Okay. Monica, your story?
Yeah, I'm not scared, but somehow I have no retaining capacity about it because I don't understand much about it. I recently filed my ITR. I go back and read about what all this is, but I totally fail at it. So it just doesn't get into my head. Yeah.
Okay. And are you happy about paying taxes? Did you have any qualms? Why am I paying so much of taxes? Like Ashneet Grover. Any thoughts?
No, I understand that to see, even to run a house you need certain its maintenance amount, so I look at it that way. So I don't have qualms about it, but I don't know how the system works.
Okay, good. Priya, I think you should have studied economics in UK, right?
Sir, when I was in UK, I did my A levels over there. So A levels, I did it in biology, maths, and chemistry. So that's, I don't know anything about economics. But I studied about it. But the thing where I like is calculations. So calculations part is where I just get scared looking at the numbers. Then I start solving it. Then it becomes easy. But numbers scare me.
Okay, numbers scare you. See, today's class will be an introduction to many things. It will be an introduction to an approach. Because many a times we lose the mental battle. I don't want you all to lose that battle. My personal desire would be that after covering the the subject. Some of you feel the desire to pick it as an optional subject, perhaps, in UPSC, even though you come from a non-economics background. But let's see how that happens. Will that happen or not? My personal desire would be that you are able to make much more sense of the world that we're living in. And of course, you should not be scared of the term economics. Prajwal, what's your story? What scares you about economics?
Good evening, sir. So actually, I haven't read economics since my class 10th. So I tried reading it on my own. So I get the concepts, but not fully. So I couldn't retain the concept. And so while reading the current affairs also, I can't relate it to the concept. So that's there. So.
All right. Anu, your thoughts? What scares you about economics?
So actually, to comprehend all the concepts while attempting the questions is what scares me. I have learned it on my own and also joined in coaching, but I just couldn't comprehend all the facts.
Okay. Couple of people I will interact with, and then we'll begin the class. Shweta? Shweta? No, she's just... Krishnapuram? Your thoughts?
The term itself
The
scares
term
me.
itself? But
And
why? What's the reason? What could be the reason?
I tried learning, sir, but when I pick up a newspaper and try to read, I don't know what have I been reading all these days in the books and what's happening in the world.
So you're finding it difficult to interconnect the theory with
Yes,
practice.
yes, sir. But also the concept side do not grasp that easily as I do it with history and also.
Okay. History is what we have done, so it should be easy for you. But let's see if we can make this happen for economics as well. Zoya?
So I've done liberal arts, so I had to take economics when I was in school. I tried to do IB. I took economics. I couldn't. I had to eventually leave that major and take another major. When I had to do my economics and my liberal arts, I thought I'm understanding everything okay, like this invisible hand and this and that. But I performed so terribly in the exams. So I don't know what I don't get, but I've never performed well in it.
Now, let me change the question to all those who have their hands raised. What do you think of economists? What's the one word, the first word that comes to your mind when you hear the term economist? And then elaborate, explain that to us. Diksha?
Fund managers.
Fund managers?
Managing money.
They're terrible at it, but go on. Why do you say that?
I don't know. I really don't have much clue of economics just because they are able to make use of money in the most sense. They make the most sense when they have money at hand. The ones who are economists.
Okay.
They are well versed with the concept.
All right. Good. Yashwardhan, your thoughts?
Naman, economists. So very rational people.
Very rational people. Good. What
Yeah.
else? Why are they rational?
Like while taking any decision, they always talk about logic and numbers and like there are many terms which they often use, opportunity cost and all. So yeah, very rational people and very they have this set framework while going through any problem while trying to make any decision in any problem. So yeah, I mean to me it comes like exact opposite of any philosophical person.
Okay. So you will rank philosophers to be less rational in comparison to economists? This is whatever you spoke. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm right, but
okay, we'll come to it.
According to me, this is the issue.
Sachin, your thoughts?
Yeah, hey Naman. So what I think is, if we think of economists also running the nation as well, so there are certain decisions that have to be taken to run the economy in a financially sound way. So the way they make the logical decisions, keeping in mind how, again, rational they are, and keeping in interest of the nation as well as compared to the peers and the competitors as well. So this is what I see economists as.
Okay. One last try, and then I'll show you a video. Saurav, your thoughts?
I can say problem solver.
I think your voice is not clear, so I'll come back to you later. Lima, what do you think? One word.
I have seen some of the Mrinal's lecture, but to be honest, I used to find it very complex. But that one thing that comes to my mind is the repo rate. I don't know why, but I was I was not expecting that you will. I have just crossed my finger and I was expecting sir should start polity, not economics. I was like this.
Okay, I'll give you the reasons why. But let's not name any professional I don't know. I'm sure many are doing incredible work. But let's see a video and let's form few opinions. Many of those opinions will be controversial, and that's fine. We love and we learn when we are amidst the controversies. So let's watch this. Many of some, so to those who have absolutely no background, I mean, it's fine if you're not able to grasp what is being said, but in time to come, you will definitely find it at ease. But nothing is complicated here.
Really? Yeah, a lot of people after the fact, of course, particularly economists are good at predicting after the fact. So they explain everything that happened. And in fact, they were fighting me when I was warning them about the accumulation of risks that we're taking in the banking system. The banking system for 12 years has been building risks on things we don't understand based on bogus economic models, financial economic risk management tools. That was unacceptable for 12 years.
Who was fighting you?
Sorry?
Who was fighting you?
Economists, mostly financial economists. Oh no, we can manage risk, we have good theories. Mostly bank risk managers, mostly quantitative analysts. They were going in and explaining, oh, we understand this guy is outrageous, he thinks in hyperboles. It was not hyperboles. Look what's happening, okay? These people, we were in a plane flown by pilots who didn't know what's going on. Eventually that plane would crash.
Kenneth Rogov, were you one of those who ignored the message?
Very powerful politically. No, I'm not saying the same thing, and I'm not now after the fact explaining it based on some warning about leverage or so on. Let me explain to you the problem of banking in this country ever since we had banking, or in the United States, or in the world now. You have an incentive for people to make money on a steady basis for a long time, claiming we take no risk. They bring some theoretician to explain to you that they're not taking risks because some metrics used by the economic establishment called variance, mean variance, all that nonsense doesn't show the risks. They're going to make money for a long time, and when they blow up, they lose everything. It's not their money, and they're going to collect bonuses along the way.
Okay, Linda, yes. You, as an economist, is it possible to integrate a model, a market model, with risks of the unexpected? Here tonight, I'm sure there are a lot of minds in Washington saying we've got to get away from ideology and sort out policy. What would be your answer to that, Linda?
I think we do need to have a coordinated response because the truth is financial markets, institutions and banks cross borders. So
because isn't the trouble that you can't ever see the unbelievable?
Let me start from scratch. I worked for a long time as a trader. My fight was with people who claim they can understand the probability of an event happening, a rare event, particularly when they know theory, economic theory. So they give you a probability of something happening, losing more than X $1 million. So these banks, comforted by these bogus measures of risk, were taking huge amount of risks for betting against rare events. Huge amount of risk by saying, oh, our quantitative risk manager, our scientist is telling us that we are safe. Same thing. My war was with Fannie Mae started, okay? When they said our scientists say that Mr. Taleb is not credible because look at it, we have 15 PhDs who say there's no risk. Well, you can have 15 PhDs or 500 PhDs. You cannot make this an arrogant bet.
In practice, what do you do?
Okay. Anyone with new formed opinions? basis whatever you saw. We'll come to it. Swati?
It's not a newly formed opinion, actually. It reminds me of something I watched some days before. It was a very old video of a EU parliamentarian lashing out on how the entire banking system is a scam because we have something called fractional reserve bank, and banks lend money which they don't have. So I think this is like an extension.
Okay. Khushi, after you.
Sir, I think Nasim Taleb has written this book called Black Swan, and I tried reading it, but I couldn't complete it. But I understand what he's saying. So what happened was in 2008, the markets crashed, and all the economists had these different reasons why the market crashed, but they didn't say anything before the market crashed, and they could have prevented it. And he's telling that economists have made this world so complex with these terms and all that they are just making these bogus terms and they're not actually working towards it. And they're just creating a lot of problems with that. And, I like the line that he said that they're good at explaining after the fact. And that's what happens when, these depressions, these Great Depressions and economic crashes come, especially the housing crash. So, yeah.
Okay. So there are many economists in the classroom. Please don't identify yourself as economist. We are UPSC aspirants. Let's go with that terminology. Sumant, last thoughts?
My takeaway from this is really the difference between the theory of economics and economics in practice. Because as a theoretical discipline, when you're studying economics, you have all these models that you're thinking, I will apply to these real life situations and to these countries, entire countries with huge markets and imports, exports, everything. But in a practical scenario, there are several factors that don't go as planned. So the models don't always, work out in the way they were intended.
Okay. So to all those who are very new to the discipline or who have never seen Nasim Taleb, so it was Nasim Taleb, author of some of the most interesting books of our times. Someone asked him, is economics even a science? And Nasim Taleb, in his own style, responded that if you ask a scientist if economics is a science, then they will tell you that economics will make astrology look excellent. Effectively, he's telling that economists are the most useless people on planet Earth. Who is Nasim Taleb? How can he say such outrageous things as that? He's been a professor at several universities. He is a distinguished professor at New York University, where he teaches, I think, risk engineering. His work on risk, probability, and the unknowns has been very influential across many fields, from finance to philosophy. In fact, our Prime Minister got a picture clicked with him when he was in the US. And both of them, I think, graciously tweeted and retweeted those photos. How delightful that meeting was. But why did he say that economics will make astrology look excellent? What does it mean? Astrology, comparing economics, the discipline of economics, to astrology. Amar Jyoti?
Maybe it is easier for astrologers to predict the future than it is for the economists to do so.
See, most of us have studied hard sciences. That's the beauty of India. We tend to study hard sciences. We've all studied physics, one of my favorite subjects back in the days. Science is defined by predictive abilities. What is that? Predictive ability refers to the methods or the models that help us predict the future. These models help us predict the future outcomes based on available data, based on available information. What stocks will rise? Should I invest in Adani's stocks? Ambani's stocks? Which countries should I invest in? Who will win the elections in 2024? How will India's economy be like in 2030? What will be the implications of the taxation structure proposed in the budget today? Basis those things, we can make some predictions. In fact, some of the policies that we bring forth are based on some predictions that we have made already. Nasim Taleb says that economists do not predict better than Uber drivers. In fact, economists are worse than Uber drivers when it comes to prediction. He terms economists as some of the most incompetent people on planet Earth. I'm quoting Taleb here, so don't hate me. Nasim Taleb says, a prostitute who sells her body is vastly more honorable than the economist who sells his opinions for promotion. And these days, the stock market courses along with it. Very controversial statement. But he's right in many ways. Many economists did not predict the severity of 2008 financial crisis. However, they were phenomenal in terms of explaining things ex post facto after the event has happened. At that time, if you were to look at any publication, be it from Harvard or Stanford or Yale, barring Yale, I think Yale did publish something. I think Robert Shiller was economist back then. He did some interesting publications. But barring few economists back then, the general consensus amongst the economists was that financial system is very stable right before the crisis. Be it Morgan Stanley, be it Goldman, be it these universities. Not just 2008 financial crisis. Many economists, financial analysts, they failed to predict the dot-com bubble, which ruined most part of the startup ecosystem in the US in 1990s. During the bubble, it was believed that the conventional rule of economics, it did not apply to the internet companies. Well-meaning economists, the famous ones, they said, with all the PhDs, they said that the companies will continue to grow and generate profits, even though they have no sustainable business model. Didn't work out. More recently, there was something called the Silicon Valley Bank, collapsed. All economists came into action after the crash of that bank, explaining what happened. So economists are phenomenal at explaining things, not beforehand, but after the crisis. The list of their mistakes is endless. It will take an entire class for me to talk about the uselessness of some of the economists. I studied econometrics and advanced economics in my graduate school. I applied econometric models during my time in the UN. And I do agree with some of the points that Nasim Taleb spoke of. In fact, Nasim Taleb was a resident fellow in my own graduate school, the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy. In his works, Nasim Taleb has proved point by point that two Nobel laureates were entirely wrong. They won Nobel Prize in economics, but policy decisions were taken based on their theories. And those decisions led to huge crisis, economic crisis. Another interesting observation is that when those policies don't work out, economists will not face the wrath. Politicians will face the wrath, the anger, the destruction. Why? Because politicians have skin in the game, unlike the economists, who come in with fancy equations and, according to Nasim Taleb, no brain cells. What is skin in the game? What does it mean? I'm going to cold call. Okay. So please be diligent. What could be skin in the game? What could it mean? Aman?
So to have, be active in some activity.
Okay. Shubham?
Hello, sir. Am I
Yeah.
audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, sir. So having skin in the game means like you have your interest in the field, and if you win, you win. You lose, you lose. You have got stakes, very high stakes over there.
Stakes?
On those lines.
Interesting term, stakes. Ishan, what is skin in the game?
Sir, it is about taking active responsibility for your own decisions. That is what skin in the game means. Because if something goes correct, the entire credit also belongs to you. But if something goes wrong, all the mistakes were from your end because you took a particular decision.
It's a wonderful concept. Should be a fundamental principle for leaderships. Should be taught in leadership classrooms. Skin in the game means that my success is directly tied to your success. If you fail, I fail. If you fail to clear this examination, I am at risk. Misfits will be at risk. Skin in the game is the day when all civil servants, when they start sending their kids to government schools. Why? Because then the growth of government schools will be directly linked with the growth of their kids. They will have stakes in the system. But no, that does not happen. There are a few civil servants who send their kids to government schools for a few initial years, for largely photo ops. But when the formative years of the kids come, you will find the same civil servants sending their kids to St. Columbus, Welham, Modern School, Barakamba. Why? Because they cannot trust their kids and their kids' future in those government schools, because they know how the administration works in those schools. How many government school kids go on to get accepted at Harvard or Wharton or Stanford or work at BCG or McKinsey? Compare that metric that of a kid at a private school in India. And then we talk about equity. Merit is important. What about equality of opportunity? Skin in the game is when company's CEO owns the share and how much of shares of his or her own company, because the personal success is directly tied to that company's success. Whenever I analyze stocks, I always look at those companies. Your promoters are owning those companies, at least in Indian context. Because if you're scared of buying your own company shares, clearly you don't have skin in the game. For Indian context, for American companies, different way to analyze. Politicians have skin in the game. Anything they do or anything they do not do is directly tied to their victory in the next elections. At least that is the ideal model. But is that so? Does that work in India? Or do we have exceptions in India? In India, there are few politicians who keep on changing their parliamentary constituency. Honorable Rahul Gandhi shifted to a safe seat in a constituency in Kerala, not Amethi. Why? Ideally, you should be judged based on the work that you have done in Amethi. That was the constituency that made you win elections 5 years ago. Why are you changing your constituency now? Are you not proud of your work? Narendra Singh Tomar, the present-day Agriculture Minister of India, keeps on shifting his constituency every 5 years. Gwalior in first term, Morena in second term. Why? These are the members of parliaments who gave up on their constituency, gave up. What stops them from giving up on their country for next better opportunity? Listen, I picked up examples from both BJP and Congress before anyone accuses me of being anti-Congress, pro-BJP. Economists also are similar. So the way Narendra Singh Tomar has no skin in the game when he shifts his constituency before every elections, economists also have no skin in the game. Basis few empirical evidences. Why? Because they are tasked with creating models to predict economic phenomena. However, look at their personal wealth, financial stability. Is it tied to the accuracy of their predictions? If their predictions are wrong, if their advice is wrong, who faces the consequences? They do not bear any financial consequences. This is very different from the consequences that I will face if you don't clear the exam. Very different from the consequences that business owners, financial traders will face. Because their personal wealth is directly tied to their ability to make predictions. In India, there's a service called Indian Economic Services. You all know that? These people come up with theories, recommendations that are detached from ground realities, many cases. I saw that happening every day during my time in petroleum and natural gas ministry. Many times they're accused by the JS and the additional secretaries that you folks are devoid from practical experiences. Run a district and then tell us your theories. Run an embassy and then tell us your theories. They do not know how to run businesses. Just because you have masters in economics, you're qualified to write that exam and define dictate economic policy of India. No. How many IAS officers do you know? One of my friend, an IAS, went on a deputation in the central government. He said that IAS is surely one of the most useless cadre in India. Of course, that's an extreme statement. I might not agree with him. But many in the government, he's not alone, many in the government have that notion. In fact, there is reason for it. In the IFS, if you join the IFS, your head or the cadre head will be the Foreign Secretary of India, also a member of the IFS. In the IAS, it would be the CSEC, again, belongs to your services. But in the IES, how many chief economic advisors are from the IES? I can't think of one. All external entrants or promotees from the IAS. From Economic Affairs Secretary to the Finance Secretary, just name one IES. Zero. There is none. In fact, the RBI governor today in India has no connections with economics. But does that make him a bad RBI governor? No, he's a practitioner. Run districts, run states. But my question now is interesting. If economists are so bad, they're so bad, why the hell should we study this subject? These economists are heavily criticized. They don't have skin in the game. They make inaccurate predictions. No one who is sane is trusting them. From Nasim, Taleb to Nawal Ravikant. None of them have good things to say about economists, especially for macroeconomists. And why study this subject? What's the point? Have I demoralized you already? Swati?
So I believe economists are still however bad they are, because when we are making policy, we need to operate on some degree of assumption. And you said that, its predictive ability is bad, but it has proved itself to some degree that yes, we can make accurate predictions. So it's a mix of both.
Okay. At least economists should come to rescue now. They should have a counter. Rashika, what do you think?
Yeah, I think as you said that the RBI governor is good because maybe he's a practitioner. I think apart from the theories and the jargons of the economics, there are very practical things which we see in businesses and other things going on around us. And I think as a going to be the future servants, you have to learn about those things and see how you can make the most practical use of it rather than the predictions and all.
Okay. Mohit, your thoughts?
Hi, Naman. Hi, everyone. I believe that an economist helps us to observe the important factors going around the economic situation of a country or a state or a business. So they allow us or they pick out the important KPIs or important metrics which can be analyzed, studied for the future foreign policy creation.
But when I was in the government, we were hiring McKinsey and BCG for our work to define KPIs. And half of them were not economists. They were real practitioners who defined the industries. Even today, we are hiring a lot many external consultants. But go on.
So when we talk about the economics in the services or in the name of the nation, those consultants could be better analyzed, better judged, better handpicked by these economists who have studied economics in very detail. Otherwise, they're like BCG, McKinsey, and all these consultants have a good name in the industry, but who knows whenever they can fool us.
Never in my time I saw a member of the IAS cadre deciding should McKinsey get a contract or BCG get a contract. Largely, those domains were headed by IAS officers. In Petroleum Ministry, in Commerce Ministry, even IFS will hold that sway. A technical service. But anyway, good points. I want a good defense for the economists. We can't be so brutal and harsh on them. Arushi?
Sir, I don't have a defense point for economists, but I would like to say that I have studied economics in my 11th and 12th standard. So, what my understanding of economics is, it's not only about the cash flow or the economy we are running, it's also about the resources we have right now and how can we manage that resources. Because all I remember from a textbook is we learned about agricultures and like all the resources we have available in India. So, maybe economists like that's my understanding for economics.
That is the concern, right? You don't study agriculture in books. You practice it on field. You don't manage resources in books. You manage it when you're governing states or countries or nations. Well, the important thing is that you need to keep your friends close, but enemies closer. Perhaps that's why we should study economics. I'll give a new explanation to it as well in time to come. As IAS, IFS officers, you will be leading ministries or departments. Will host many such economists. They will tell you, they will convince you with their thoughts. They will have the frameworks, they will have the models on how should you allocate resources. Will you trust them blindly? No. If you were to trust them blindly, basis the model and fancy equations, that's going to be a misallocation of those resources. Could potentially ruin your divisions, your districts, your nation, your foreign policy in many instances. We talk about it once we go into the politics of World Trade Organization in time to come. Of course, we can't fire IAS officers, but they should be kept in check. They should be questioned. They should be held accountable for their models, for their theories, for the equations, at least in your departments. There's a high likelihood many of them will work under you. Some of them will directly report to you. And therefore, it makes sense to learn briefly about the subject that they specialize in. And a subject that has been made to appear very complicated and very convoluted. I know many of you are scared of this subject, and rightfully so. You all think it's very mathematical. You think that you've never studied this in the past. You don't understand it. But believe me, it's one of the easiest subjects. And I will make sure it remains the same. My methods of delivering lectures on economics are going to be vastly different. I will not begin with supply-demand nonsense at this stage. We'll talk about it, but later. I've absolutely loved economics for a long time. Economics, not economists. I first studied economics informally when I was working in the office of India's Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister. And as a part of his team, we were working on defining the gas pricing policy of India. It was back then I was informally introduced to economics. But then as a part of my MBA curriculum, I studied the subject formally. While designing the curriculum for the Misfits, I realized that there is not a single high quality resource available today for the UPSC examination. That's a hard fact. There are so many books, pretty thick books, but none of those books, sadly, are perfect. Some of the books and materials will perhaps make you hate this beautiful subject. And I cannot let that happen. I can't sleep at night if that happens with you. The way we have standard books for polity, be it Lakshmikant or T.D. Basu, or history in the form of NCRT, the Tamil Nadu books, same is not the case with economics for UPSC. So my request is that you should rely entirely on Misfits lecture for economics for UPSC, GS paper. We will not delve into optional aspects of it. For GS paper, Misfits lecture should be more than enough. Nothing else is needed. There will be some post reads that I will ask you to read. Other than that, keep it simple. Just Misfits lecture. Make notes out of these lectures. I'm going to be combining a lot of my experiences, my learnings, my observations, and intertwine those concepts to present you the story of economics that is tested in the UPSC examination. That's most important. You should clear the exam. That's the goal. But how should I do that? So for that, I went through a lot of papers from UPSC, both mains and prelims. And what I realized that there is a broad pattern that UPSC has been following for the UPSC examination. It is to be duly noted that UPSC does not repeat questions, but UPSC always repeats the pattern. One pattern is that more than 1/6 of the questions in prelims or mains will be from economics. So it's important. But within all those topics, within all those concepts, all the topics will not be tested equally. A lot of questions are asked from topics such as money, banking, finance, agriculture in prelims. Even if you skipped reading newspaper for prelims, you can answer almost 70% of questions conceptually and via conjectures in prelims. But things change in mains. In mains, if you were to analyze papers, you would realize poverty, inequality, inclusive growth, agriculture, food processing, fiscal issues, they become very important. And many a times, these questions are picked from the important events of the day. Many a times directly from the Economic Survey of India. So throughout the economic lectures, we will follow an integrated approach. I thought a lot about it. Should I bifurcate prelims or mains? But I realized we cannot prepare for this exam in silos. The preparation has to be integrated. So I will keep on discussing questions also with you as and when I introduce a concept, so that you're learning on the go. I have not done this cautiously in history because I want you to make your own conjectures. It's very fact-based. But for economics, I think I have to do this. We'll keep on discussing questions, and I'm picking up 7 years paper. I'm not going in for 10 or 20 years, 6, 7 years papers. I will do it with you. Now, there's a reason why I picked economics first and not polity. My optional in UPSC was political science and IR. Ideally, I should have picked up polity. Much easier for me, much easier to teach those concepts. But I think you will benefit more from economics at this stage for multiple reasons. First, economics is more conceptual than polity. You do not have to remember a lot of things. You just have to remember a few things very well. By using those few concepts, you can analyze many things, including your newspapers. I get a query almost on daily basis that you're finding very difficult to read newspapers. So hopefully things will change from here on. For polity, you have to remember a lot of facts. I would ideally want to complete polity closer to your exam cycle. My sense is you will benefit the most at that stage because you will keep on forgetting many things. Difference between money bill, finance bill, constitutional amendment bill, how they are passed, proposed. Always asked. You will learn those things in the end, and you will be much more fresh about it when asked in the examination. Second thing is, basis the history series, we have already intertwined many of the concepts of IR and polity. And you are able to make sense of the news in those subjects. But for many of you, economics is an entirely new discipline. So earlier we finish economics, better it is. You will start internalizing the concepts, the debates that are happening in the world globally or in India. So going forward, my goal is to ensure that this repository of lectures will become the most important source for economics in time to come. We'll keep on uploading this lecture after every class. If you're not able to grasp the concepts, rewatch it. You have access to it until 2028. I hope you all clear the exam before that. I'll make sure that you're adequately trained and prepared to scrape through the bullshit the economic service officers will throw at you whenever you're managing them. Models, equations should not confuse you. You should be able to scrape through the nonsensical agenda-driven discussions. And many of the newspaper editorials are still falling through on that agenda-level discussions. You should have your own brain to make a sense of that. And that's the goal. Avdut, why is your hand raised? Please have your video on. Any question up until here? Yashwant, go on.
So I had this point that, as you said, that the high designations of economics is like done by IAS and IFS officers. But isn't that a problem? Like the head of these specialist departments is like a general person in that
What happened?
essence.
I mean, Morgan Stanley, headed by economists. What happened?
Yeah, but I'm talking about this thing.
Same situation.
Yeah, I'm talking about in a medicine sense, like the people who have like 15, 20 years experience in like practice and theory in medicine. They're headed by the people who have this fight and experience in administration, like IAS and stuff, right? So isn't that a problem because you won't be able to explain that well to them or something like that?
Good question. And that is the concern that Taleb has. In medicine, a surgeon practices things. In economics, are they practicing it? Or are they just theorizing about it? There are multiple arguments around that issue, that concept. And we all can pick a few data sets to prove our argument. Taleb would do his story. Robert Schiller will come up with his own theory. No one is right, no one is wrong. But perhaps that's the reason. Comparison to medicine, I don't think economists have skin in the game. Anubhav?
So my question would be, how would you like explain the Raghu Ram Rajan's style of policy making versus Shaktikanta Das style of policy making? Like how would you explain it in a broader concept?
Okay. See, both are remarkable figures. Truly remarkable. So I am nobody to comment on them and their policies. My goal would be to teach you certain concepts that will perhaps enable you to question, appreciate some of their policies and make conjectures on your own. If I were to talk about my ideas today, many of those ideas will make no sense to most of you. Because at foundational level, we have not learned anything at this stage, which will change, of course. So let's hold on to that question and let's discuss it from your perspective when we complete or cover a few concepts in this discipline. Nasim?
Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Sir, so my concern is that I have already appeared twice in this examination and I had my own book list in the prior attempts. Sir, just taking an example of ancient history, I referred to new NCRTs in my previous attempts. So from today, I read it from Tamil Nadu book. So, sir, would it be advisable to change the sources for all the subjects?
Okay. I think it's a good question. It's a very personal question. What I'm doing is I am being accountable to the things that I'm telling you. So if I'm telling you Tamil Nadu book, I'm telling it from my perspective. I've done my own research and I've realized that book intertwined with the Misfits lectures can augur really well. But if you've already made notes, you've already worked hard, history does not change. So my advice would be stick with your own resources, revise them multiple times, but do not miss out on the foundational lectures. Those will be the key. Those will be the distinguishing factor for you versus someone who is not part of this community. When you're writing your mains, when you're appearing in your prelims, or reading anything for that matter, those lectures should form the foundations. After those lectures, I can guarantee you, if you read the books on your own, even whatever you're reading will be from a very new perspective. So first, priority has to be those lectures. And then pick any book that you have been doing. My advice is Tamil Nadu book. But if you've already completed NCRT books, history does not change. Few additions, few subtractions. That's it. It has changed, of course, this year. Few topics have been edited, redacted. But yeah, I mean, you all know what to cover, how to cover that aspect. Himanshu, what's your question?
Hi, sir. I wanted, like, it's an off-track question, but I wanted to ask you, like, why are these people even taken seriously? Like, if you watch that movie, The Big Short, that it's clearly seen, like, they have that special investment vehicles, and they go to an agency like Moody's or S&P somewhat, and they ask him, why have you rated these investment vehicles as AAA rated? And they just simply say, if we don't rate it AAA, the other company on the block will do it. So just to maintain our business, we have to give them AAA rating. And then afterwards, when the congressional hearing happened, they just testified that it was our opinion. So because of your opinion, the whole global economy collapsed in a way. But then they just shrug it off like that was just our opinion, and they are just scotch-free. Nothing happens to them. Even before the crisis, they were getting, like Goldman Sachs and all, they were getting like millions of dollars in bonuses, and all parties and all were going on. And even afterwards the crisis, same thing was happening. So why are these people even taken seriously?
See, that's a good question. I don't know. Perhaps because whatever seems complicated, people have a tendency to not question it. And many a times, many of my friends, they work in these banks, Goldman to the Stanleys of the world. And I know, I mean, they form, create structures, bases the recommendations that they've already made in their mind. Whatever they're recommending is not inductive, it's deductive. They already know the answers, and then they are forming structures on how to present it. But let's wait for a month before we can start questioning them. It does not mean that everyone is a bad player. There are many good players also in this space. But yeah, that's a good question. I'm glad some of you are questioning it. Sahil?
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question which is a bit different from what we are discussing. And so my question is like economists, like who have the ability to predict some kind of these events like financial crisis, but they remain silent because of some top who are sitting on tops or some because of some Western countries as on purpose to gain advantage or to encash that opportunity of the financial crisis to like by investing in stocks and all to multiply their money.
So it's not that easy. But okay. Let me move on with the class. Good question, but I don't think that's it's that easy. In fact, Nasim Taleb has written about some theoretical frameworks that needs to be relooked whenever you are studying statistics, for example. That's not the idea for discussion today. Let's keep it to the UPSC standards today. But good question. And let me ask you a question. A very fundamental question. What is economics? Should we study economics? Of course, I've given you one answer. To scrape through the bullshit that prevails in the modern world. Especially as administrators, you need to do that a lot. But what could be the other most reason? Why study economics? You formed opinions. Payal?
The basic term of economics is exchange of economic activities like production, manufacturing. So even though we are criticizing economics, but however, to understand the basic level of even, I mean, if you are starting an industry or even in doing your, accounts or something, you need to know economy.
Okay. Ranbir?
I think at a broader level, we should study economy because it helps us make decision basis the resources we have.
For all I've told you, after all Taleb has said, tell me something new, something exciting, something controversial. But go on.
I mean, not something controversial, but this sort of thing. I think basis the resources we have. I mean, it is not just narrowed. We cannot narrow down in just for the finance part. It is applicable in the life at a broader scale, but the theoretical part is very complex and nuanced to understand, and practical part is very different from.
Okay. Monica?
Well, I think on a personal level, I can know who's scamming me, who's not. I can save my own money.
Okay.
And on a professional level, maybe it'll help me, decide better. That's all I can come up with.
Okay. Adarsh, after you.
Yeah, hi. So like I was thinking like from the economic perspective, we can say like we can get the idea of where the money is flowing and how it is flowing in the
Don't
community.
give me good attempts and then don't give me bookish answers. Think something new.
So like
something that you have not read, now you're forming opinions. That is why we always discourage pre-reads in Misfits. Otherwise, you are restricted to your line of thinking.
Like the word economics like suggests us like how the economic like the resources are being distributed in the community. That's what like I think
Okay.
could be said.
Twinkle, after you. I think you have some background in economics. Go on.
So just studied it in 11th and 12th, so I don't think I can conclusively say that I have a background. I think economics draws flack for most of its concepts being attached on ceteris paribus, meaning everything they make constant, which obviously does not happen in real life. However, there are economics might not predict the economy, but human behavior, especially in terms of demand and supply, it really predicts that well. And that too is an important part in policy making, especially in our country, where food prices is still a very hot topic. It is something that every government struggles with, no matter what the global economy is like or the local economy is like. So economics does have some proven concepts which help us not make mistakes. So we should study economics for that reason.
What are those concepts?
So, for example, if we look at necessities, food, salt, water, right now the government, they stop export of rice because we will be facing a crunch. And of course, if we are facing a crunch, the prices will rise. And the prices might rise to a level which makes rice out of the consumption level of most people in the country. So it helps us understand that. Like people in the States are panic buying rice because they know that the price is going to go up. So it can predict human behavior, not the economy in general, but human behavior.
Ananya, after you.
Also, we can analyze the economic crises of other countries and know what we have to not, like what kind of policies we do not have to make.
Very good. Very good. Most important reason why study economics. The answer is simple. Economics equal to empire. From Harappans to Mesopotamians, to Babylonians, to Romans, to as late as British and the Americans. These civilizations, they thrived, they acquired powers, they influenced societies. Why? Not because they had leaders with 56 inches chest. It was because these were economic powerhouses. Forget about civilizations, forget about countries. Industrialists, they have created empires. They have created empires by focusing on the economics of their businesses. The Adani empire, the Ambani empire. Although this monopolistic trend is deadly for India. We'll come to it later. Do you think they stand in line for visas for US, Ambanis and Adanis? No. The world creates exceptions for them. The world has always created exceptions for economic powerhouses. Why and how United States influences the politics and the policies of World Bank? Why certain countries have more prominence in the negotiations that happen in the corridors of WTO? Because some of these countries are economic powerhouses. Today, world listens to India because world realizes the potential of Indian markets. If tomorrow Joe Biden were to meet the leaders of India versus the leader of Burkina Faso, favorite country, he will undoubtedly go and hug the Indian leader. Why? Because their economic interests align very well with India. From Tim Cook to Sundar Pichai to Satya Nadella, no matter which company they ran, be it Apple, Google, Microsoft, the performance of their stocks is directly tied to their performances in the Indian markets. Such a big market. India was world's largest economy for staggering 1.5 millennia. What does that mean? It means from 1st century to 17th century. India's economy was considered to be one of the largest economies in the world. One of the largest economies in the world. 1st century to 17th century, particularly during the Mauryan age, the Gupta's age, and then during the age of Mughals. Indian economy was considered to be the largest in the world. But things changed in 1820. What happened? What happened in 1820? China surpassed the Indian economy in 1820. And until the 1870s, India and China remained the world's two largest economies. According to the British economist Angus Madison, India's share of the world economy was 23%, as large as all of Europe combined. It was 27% during the time of Aurangzeb. By the time British departed India, India's GDP had dropped to just 3%. We all know this. We were one of the most poorest, most diseased, and perhaps one of the most illiterate societies on this earth. What happened? Why did that happen? Because India was governed for the benefit of Britain. We all know that. British's rise for 200 years was financed by its depredations of India in India. The sole purpose of the British colonial rule in India was to reduce India into a colony. We were a colony. British colony is the word we used in all books. What does colony mean? What is the purpose of establishing a colony? What is it? Can you think of any modern day examples of such colonies? Shivani?
So modern day, I do not know, but colony is basically subjugation of one nation on another for the economic benefit, I guess.
Okay. Rutuja?
So there are two concepts. First is colonization, which is for the economic and political benefits. And modern day, it is called as neocolonialism. So we can think of the example of America's dominance in the Latin American countries. So like they have a say over there. Similarly, France has a say in the African countries. The recent example is Nigeria.
Okay. Swati?
So yeah, like another person rightly said, in today's time, it's known as neocolonialism, and the main purpose of a colony is to extract and loot in terms of all aspects. So a recent example can be, China and US competing for investments in Africa, and how US's investment in Africa is right now 1/6 of China's. So yeah, that's it.
Ankit? Go on, Ankit.
Yes. So the latest example can be the China's debt policy, what's seen with Sri Lanka and the African countries.
See, the purpose of establishing a colony is simple. The purpose is to exploit resources. It was gold, silver, spices back in the days. Today it is in the form of oil, rare earth minerals. Americans and Chinese, they're establishing colonies in modern day Africa. Of course, they will not use the word colony. They would use the word strategic partnership. The relationship between Pakistan and China, is it a partnership of equals? It will not be wrong to consider Pakistan to be a Chinese colony in modern day context, a vassal state. China-Pakistan economic corridor is nothing but a way and means to influence Pakistan's domestic policies, and that's happening. Look at the amount of debt that Pakistan has now raised. Today, whatever China wants, Pakistan has to do it. No questions asked. Of course, when you think in the first order narratives, you will not see this. You will think Pakistan is a sovereign state. Whatever, just military. It's okay, they don't have civilian government, military is ruling. But look closely. China is a major supplier of arms to Pakistan. There is enormous increase in Chinese language learning centers in Pakistan. You want to learn that language. So, like Pakistan is a neo colony, the relationship between the Britain and India was a colonial relationship back in the days. It will not be wrong to say that British destruction of textile and the entire industry that led to the first great deindustrialization of the world in the modern world. That's the first example of great deindustrialization in the modern world. How they destructed the textile industry in India. As late as the mid 18th century, Bengal's textile, they were being exported to Egypt, Turkey, Persia, to even Java, China, Japan. The value of Bengal's textile exports alone was estimated to have been around 16 million rupees annually in the 1750s. But then something happened. British traders took power, everything changed. British were ruthless. They were very ruthless. They cut off the export market for Indian textiles. It is also noted and documented that soldiers of East India Company, they were so ruthless that they smashed the looms of the Bengali weavers, even broke their thumbs. Why? Because they had to do something to establish their monopoly. In fact, William Bentinck, who we term as Lord, William Bentinck, the Governor General, he wrote that the bones of cotton weavers were bleaching the plains of India. What does it mean? It means that the Indian weavers were literally being killed because of the collapse of their livelihood, very well documented by William Bentinck himself, thereby highlighting the devastating impacts of colonialism in India. These master weavers became the beggars of India. A marvelous industry turned to ruins. British extracted from India approximately 18 million pounds each year between 1765 and 1815. Back in the days, there was a French ambassador who was stationed in London. He wrote that some of the directors of East India Company, they are richer than some of the kings of Europe. Thomas Pitt, the governor of Madras, 1702, he stole and shipped 400 carats of diamond to Britain. And when his diamonds arrived safely in Britain, he gave up his governorship. Why take the burden? He purchased a grand estate and then became a parliamentarian. Definitely paid a lot of money to acquire that seat. Warren Hastings, another so-called lord in town, he accepted substantial personal bribes. And then he went on to wage a war against these bribe givers. Extracted every ounce from the treasury of Awadh. He said to his council that he received a gift of 10 lakh rupees back in the days, a huge fortune from his spoils. He requested the council for a formal permission to keep it for himself. And council also agreed. And we call them lords. They were looters. So on 15th August 1947, India was not an economic powerhouse, but an economy that had been looted and plundered for years. Many magics took place. Many wrong decisions were taken. Many incredible decisions were taken. But now my question is, can Indian economy bounce back? Chinese seems to have bounced back already. They're already set to become the world's largest economy. Arvind Panagria, an Indian American economist, he was a part of the government. He teaches Indian political economy at Columbia University. 3 days ago, he wrote an article for Times Magazine. He wrote in his article that India might become the world's largest economy between 2035 and 2040. But the question is, will India surpass the US? If yes, then when? That was a question that he was addressing. I don't want you to focus on when. I want you to focus on how in these classes. What are those fundamental tenets that we have to focus on to perhaps make India surpass the US and take up that place that we had in 17th, 18th, 19th centuries? Not 19th, but 18th century. How can we increase productivity per person? What is productivity in first place? What is monetary policy? What is fiscal policy? How do these policies affect the investments that you and I make in stock markets or bonds, in real estate? And how, and more so, how do these investments then affect the fiscal policy? I know many of these terms and jargons are indeed jargons. Don't worry, we'll learn all these concepts. What are the problems and some remarkable things about the taxation structure of India? How does it affect the elderly, the women, the underprivileged? Economics is never and should never be about vague definitions and those ridiculous equations. Economics is life, and I'm not kidding. Taxations to subsidies, every action, every inaction of the government, it affects us directly, not even indirectly. And we are confused. We don't know what is happening. How is it happening? What is taxation? What is taxation? Anyone? Himanshu?
Taxation. Yes. What I think, it's just taking a part of someone's earnings just to, like, I'm in power, you'll do your business if it's like I'm in power. So if I'm like the government is there, so we are at some point we're using government resources, or we are made to think we are. So like in the online gaming, they gave 28% tax. So it doesn't mean like they want the industry to flourish. It's an indirect message that they don't want that industry to flourish. So they're just giving out vague statements like they don't want. Yeah.
Okay. Daisy, what is taxation?
So the ideal taxation is, in my opinion, distribute the wealth as well as creating a base for the economy for more economic growth, like increasing the cake as well as reducing inequalities between the different parts.
Okay. So I took one of the courses that so Arvind Subramanian, he was the chief economic advisor of India, and now I think he teaches at least when I was at Harvard, he taught at the Kennedy School, and I took one of his classes. There's something called auditing. So I audited one of his classes, and he gave a wonderful definition for taxation. In fact, he used that definition in the Economic Survey of India when he was the chief economic advisor. He said that taxation is an economic glue that binds citizens and makes governments accountable to citizens and vice versa. This is a line that he, in fact, used in one of the Economic Survey of India. Taxation is not just about financing a spend. It is the economic glue that binds citizens and make governments accountable to citizens and vice versa. How? Can anyone explain this? It's a beautiful statement. In today's class, we're just introducing economics. I'm not talking anything fancy. We'll do that in next class onwards. I'm just introducing this beautiful discipline. Jaya, after you.
Yeah, no. So the concept of flow is more like being dependent, mutually dependent. So as citizens, we are dependent on the government for the services they provide, and the government themselves are dependent on the taxes they collect from us for their existence.
Okay. Today, economic development, it is said that today economic development lags behind our political development. Majority of India votes, but minority of India pays taxes. What is the problem? And you do not pay taxes. According to the 2016 Economic Survey of India, I think it was authored by Mr. Subramanian, the ratio of taxpayers to voters is only about 4%. What does it mean? It means that for every 100 voters in India, only 4 are paying taxes. Not much has changed, by the way, in 7 years. Similar numbers. My question is, why is taxation key to long run political economic development? Nisha?
Sir, I came across an interesting video wherein which they gave a different definition of taxation, saying how the people who who earn less are taxed more than the people who earn more are taxed less, and they gave a they said that they tax less because they tax people who earn more because they are the people who invest in things the government can't take risks in. They invest in sectors where the government can't take risk in. That's why they are being incentivized, and as a consequence, the people who earn less are being taxed.
But here, economic survey data says out of 100 people who vote for are paying taxes. That's the government data. Let's talk about that government data because we're preparing for a government exam. 2016. Of course, you are right about many things. That taxation structure is very regressive in India. We'll talk about it in time to come. And I'll explain you why it is regressive, why it is not progressive. There are a few elements of progressiveness, but it's largely regressive. There's a reason why high net worth individuals are leaving this country. What is democracy? What is democracy? Democracy is a contract between state and its citizens. It's a contract between state and its citizens. And this contract has a vital economic dimensions. What is the role of a state? Simple question. State's role is to provide us security of life and property. And here in India, we have to hire private security guards. Some consider it to be a status symbol these days. Why does this happen? This happens when state fails in its duty in securing life and property to its citizens. I invested my money in one of the companies that deals in private security. Enormous returns in past 5 years. State's role is to create conditions for good education, infrastructure. In Madhya Pradesh, even in 21st century, we do not have bijli, pani, sadak. There are regular electricity cuts. I don't know about UP or other parts of India, but I've lived in MP, traveled across MP. Why does this happen? Clearly, politicians are not honoring their contract. But most importantly, we are not holding them accountable. Why? Because only 4 of us amongst the 100 are paying direct taxes in India that we can see. Citizens will not hold accountable. Citizens will not hold government accountable if they do not see visibly that they are paying for the services that government has promised them in lieu of taxes. If citizens do not pay for services, be it in the form of taxes or user fee, that citizen becomes a free rider. Who is a free rider? Free rider is someone who is using those services but is not paying for the services. And when you don't pay for the services, you will not hold the person providing services accountable because you have lost the moral ground. If today any one of you was sitting free of cost in this Misfits classes, I can vouch for you, you will stop attending classes after 2 days or 3 days. You will not have the motivation. And you will also not hold me accountable. Because here you see clear-cut exchange of services. Therefore, no taxation without representation became the war cry of American Revolution. Taxation is indeed the economic glue that binds citizens to the state in a two-way relationship. Arvind Subramaniam is right about that. Learning should never be about theories and formulas. Otherwise, become economic service officers. Here we are aiming for better services. We need to think beyond formulas and equations. One major problem when it comes to teaching economics is that we just talk about economics. We dig deeper into the purely economical rationales and reasons. And that is where the expert problems lies. Because experts come in with a lot of biases. An expert thinks in silos. That is why IAS officers do not become cabinet secretaries or foreign secretaries or finance secretaries or even economic affairs secretary. What's the term for economics in Sanskrit? Arthashastra. Arthashastra, authored by Chanakya, is not merely about economics. It is beyond economics. Arthashastra has chapters on statecraft, military strategy, political science, and of course, economic policy, but not just economics. So when we study economics, we will take cautious efforts to link in with global politics, internal security, to even domestic politics. You cannot understand, study, analyze economics in silos. That's the biggest blunder all of you make, and many continue to make. That is why economics lose interest. And whenever we are doing that, whenever making conjectures, interconnections across classes, we should be training our mind adequately to also solve UPSC papers, because that is what we are here for, other than falling in love with a subject. We are not here to acquire PhDs in this subject. Yale, Wharton, they have better programs if PhDs excite you. We have to wrap up economics in a month or two. And therefore, we have to prioritize few things. Economics undergrad, master's degree take a lot of time, but we have to study from the perspective of GS. So if you are coming in with absolutely no understanding of economics, please don't be scared. Because we will be covering foundations, structures, logics, and connections. Just stay diligent in classes. Should be an easy deal for you. Of course, I will have to introduce you to many new terminologies, be it the yield curve, inflation, kinds of inflation, exchange rates, history, policies behind those rates. Of course, there will be discussions around balance of payments, money laundering, to even equity markets. but I have to do all of those things under the realm of UPSC preparation. And while I'm doing it, I will definitely not go through the standard methodology that is currently available in the industry or mentioned in NCERT books. Whatever we will cover will be more than enough for UPSC preparation. Your goal should be to revise, re-revise these lectures and keep on reading the newspapers, because now newspapers will become fun for you going forward. Today's class is a short class because it has to be an introduction. I don't want to overwhelm you. In fact, next few classes should be short classes. I can't overwhelm you. It's a new thing for many of you. But yes, this is going to be a fun ride. So welcome. And with this ends the first session for economics, where we spoke everything about the world, but economics. But I will be keen to understand from you your observations based on the first class. What do you think of it? What were your 3 key learnings or insights or 3 key observations about the subject, methods, or anything? Sachin?
The biggest thing for me is the interlinking with what's happening around. So for example, when you talked about skin in the game, right? Now, I have read about that term many times before, but never linked that with economics. Now, for example, when we invest in mutual funds, normally what we suggest is look at the fund manager's investment in the fund itself. So let's say if he invests 20% of what he's investing into his fund only, that means he has X amount of skin in the game versus a 50% of investment in his own fund. So whenever we are connecting these lines, it opens that world, because earlier we read that in textbooks. Now we are able to relate that to the reality as well. So this is the biggest takeaway for me.
Fair enough. Good. Good observations. Afreen?
So, firstly, I got to know a personality like Nasim Taleb. I'm very impressed by his expression of thoughts. Another point is I got to face my opinion of economics. I was scared about it. And the third point is that I have chosen to give it another chance to learn in another dimension.
Okay, let's make that happen. Amisha?
So for me,
For some reason, I cannot hear you properly.
I'm facing connection issue. Sorry. Hello.
Yeah, try again.
Am I audible?
Yes.
So for me, especially people who pursue economics, and in general, economists are seen as a very intelligent person. So for me, it was a very big blow that economists are considered whatever. Second thing was, that's all.
So yeah, let's not get personal here. Those are the views of Nasim Taleb. Of course, I don't want the economist in the class to hate me for just speaking out those points. And of course, there are some marvelous economists who have contributed immensely. Harminder?
My learning is that how it is very important to invest in human resources in the form of skill, education, and health to increase productivity per person, as you mentioned in the class. When productivity increases, it will directly increase our tax base when they are in the formal economy, and it will anyhow strengthen our democracy contract, social contracts. This is my first learning. Second learning is how, because we have a potential market size that is very big, we will remain in the center of global eyes for the next 2-3 decades, maybe more than that. these two learnings.
Let's not make predictions for now, but okay, good. Ashnavi? See, from next class onwards, please make sure that you're taking notes. In the end, I might want to just check what are your learnings have been. Especially in the initial phase of any new subject, you should do that. Go on, Vaishnavi.
Good evening, sir. So this was my first class with you, and I'm a professional Kathak dancer. So I really liked your class, and I'm quite new to the preparation as well. So the three takeaways that I have is the very first one is as to how to think like a bureaucrat. You defined how to think like a bureaucrat and how to counter the IES if in future that is ever required. Second thing, sir, I liked is that you mentioned the economy is equal to empire. So that is also a very new perspective for me. And the third is the bashing of economists made us believe that economy is quite doable and easy. So those are the three takeaways from today's class.
All right, it's good to know. And welcome, Sakshi.
Yes, sir. But about number or statistics, it beyond it. And second learning would be that economy is important to thrive any empire or country. And yes, sir.
Okay, good.
That's
Ankit.
So I learned that the integrated approach of all the subjects, like connecting the dots from one subject to another, like from polity to the economics and the other things, and the out of the box approach, and not just depending on the theories. You can think something different.
Okay.
That's it.
And Ankit, are you in the Navy? I think there's someone from the Navy also in the Navy. Are you one of that? Okay. Twinkle, after you.
Good evening. So I did not know that the Arthashastra also deal with economics. I thought it was completely about statecraft and policy and all of that. And second was how taxation is an economic glue. This will be controversial, but as someone who does not rely a lot on government services, tax does not really feel like a glue. It feels like a burden. That being said, I paraphrased it with a lot. I've never been to a government hospital. I've never gone to a government school. So it certainly does not feel like glue to me at this moment. And so I had a question.
Hold on. You know, it is a glue. So yeah, it is not a glue for Indians. It's a burden for many. And the reason is because many minuscule people are paying taxes. Others are either evading taxes. And therefore, minority of people are facing the burden. People who are salaried classes, people in formal economy, the kachori walas to golgappa walas are evading taxes. So the day that the number of people paying taxes in India increases, perhaps things will change. I think the global average has around, the ratio is 23-24%. In India, it's 4% or around that these days.
Okay, so my question is, we know that a business and a politician nexus exists in most economies today in the world. So, America has their election year next year as well. So is that why they went from decoupling to de-risking to being like, no, we are each other's biggest trade partners? Because whatever episode of Shark Tank USA I've watched, everyone wants to manufacture in China. Most people are trying to shift and diversify because of their policies during COVID. But is that a major reason why? Or is the US just accepting defeat that, countering China every time is not really helping them?
I think I don't have a well-framed answer to this. I'll await the question. I'll come back to it in one of the classes. Mohit?
Hi, once again. So my key learnings is initially we discussed about the economics. What is economics? And I observed that economics is an art of prediction. And since it's an evolutionary process, it becomes science. And by being very observant about the variables over there, we will be able to predict better and create better theories according to economists. Second key learning is that I have to think about that, can India surpass US? So that's a homework I have been given or taken. Third thing is that economics is one of the means to create better state craftsmen, to become a better state craftsman. And fourth is about the taxation, wherein we discussed about taxation, about the Arvind Subramanian statement that taxation is a glue between citizen and state. And from there, I was able to infer one new statement that one new definition from my end, that I can see taxation as a hafta, kind of hafta system, which entails to provide safety and security measures to its citizens. These are my 4 learnings from class.
Okay, interesting. Pragya?
Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So the 3 insights that I got today were that the facade around the economist and that their theories are not to be taken as gospel truths for structuring the economic model for any country. Secondly, I learned the importance of studying economics from an administrator's point of view. Like if you go to some country and you want to understand their language, you must be well versed in the language to be able to counter their arguments. Similarly, we need to understand the language of economy so that in future when we become administrators, we actually know what the other person is trying to say, and we don't have that inferiority complex that we don't have this background, and we understand what the other person is trying to propose. And thirdly, how economics is integrated in the general day-to-day living of every person. And by understanding the basic economy around us, even being generalist, we can contribute like in the major decisions of the country, like being a normal citizen as well.
Interesting. Good summary. Anjali?
Hello, sir. My 3 learnings would be like in my mind, how I defined economics was the resource ecosystem and its management. Everything around us is getting managed by the economics part. And one more thing, that it's more of a practical approach than it's theoretical. So I think going forward, we'll learn it more in a practical perspective, and then we'll go move towards the theory, what I understood. And economics will help us understand the current affairs that's going around. Right.
All right, interesting. Vijay?
Hi, Naman. My key takeaways would be like, first thing, I really liked how you linked the definition of colonization with economics. Second, how the definition of democracy was linked to economics. And then finally, like it's not about the like difficult equations and models, and we need to understand economics to make sure that it would help the upliftment of the country and society as a whole. So those are the key takeaways. And I also had it's like a question I was trying to ask myself, like why regarding the colonization, when the colonizers are seeing a prosperous country, why they try to destroy it instead of taking an advantage of exploiting it by keeping it as intact the way it is. Instead of that, they try to like exploit and destroy the whole existing economy, and then go away. So that's something I'm just thinking about, and I want to ponder more upon that.
I think you'll find your answers in human nature and environment. What's happening with environment? Lima?
My 3 key learnings are the first thing that I really liked is how the economy is not just the management of money. We got it from the word Arthashastra. is the management of military and domestic politics and etc. The second thing is how the definition of the taxation that we got, that gave me a new insight that how we as and the state are connected through the taxation system. And the third one is when you told us why we are reading the economics subject and how the economics is related to the bigger the empire and with relating it with the past as well, and it just clicked with it just interconnected the past and the present with the economics. These are the three key learnings.
Go on, Yogita.
Okay. So the three learnings for today. First one was that more than 1/6 of the questions in prelims are from economics. Second one, I really like the definition, like the taxation. So I've done a bachelor's in economics, but still, taxation it is taught to us in a different way. But I really like the definition, but I still don't know how it is a glue that binds citizens. But still, and apart from this, I think one major takeaway was that if we read economics in silos, then that's the biggest blunder. So I think that is why all the demerits that it listed today is one of the reasons why it becomes a very disarrayed subject. I have few more points to add. So one of the reasons why a lot of people think that economics is all the points that we talked about. I believe like economics is a very new subject and it is a very dynamic subject. So I do agree that a lot of theories, predictions go way out of the league. But it is the reason is because it is so interlinked with a lot of things. It's so dynamic that is why we study, like in order to study it, we have to put a lot of assumptions. So yeah, that is it.
Okay. That's it from today's class. Let's have this practice. I'll cold call anyone from next class onwards. Wish you all the best and see you all tomorrow. Okay. Good luck.